we go. Respirare visus est. So we know the S means it's him. He seemed to respire, to breathe, and quod because non alias, no one else, apotius rather, diceret was going to speak. Coipi dicere. So I began to speak. Usque eo enim adverti. So as far as this, and as much as I noticed, here we have vocative again, Eudices, the jury. So this is as much far as Cicero's noticed, that he was, eum was jocare, he was joking, and alias res agere. So he's agorating or doing other matters, other things, alias res. Antiquam, doesn't necessarily need the space, before nominavi Chrysogonum, before he mentioned by name Chrysogenus. Quem, whom, simul atqui, simul ac means as soon as, artigo, as soon as I touched on quem, who he had named, start him immediately, homo se erexit, homo erectus here. So the man got himself up. Say shows that it was himself that got up. And visus est again, which we had up here, he seemed mirari, to be amazed. Intellexi quid eum p pugisset. This is a subjunctive. Pungo actually is a repetitive perfect, so that's why it has the extra p in it. So intellexi, I understood what had stung him, so. Okay, so we'll make that our daily dictionary. Pungo. P-pungai is the perfect punctum, from where we get like punctures and things like that. The prick, puncture, sting, from an insect, jab, poke. We also have vex, into trouble. So this is a pluperfect subjunctive. If you go to Latin, is simple. It has these charts. So you can have the perfect, indicative, etc., and look at them all there. Okay, iterum actertio nominavi. So I named him again and a third time. Postea, adverb. So afterwards, homines, men. Cursorade means they ran about. Non-desiderant. They didn't desist in cursorating and running about. We have this little phrase, ultro and citro. These are adverbs, mean running around here and there. Credo, I believe, or I suppose, qui, who, they would nuntiaret, they would announce this, dative, to Chrysogenus. That essay, there was someone, aliquam, in the civitate, in the ablative, in the state, qui who, contra eus voluntatem, against his will, ordaret, who would dare, taking the infinitive, to speak against him. So aliter, adverb differently, causam agi. So the case, the cause, was being conducted differently, aliter, at qui illi he existimate, than he thought. There's a download, one of my downloads shows how at qui and ac are used as than, like a comparative, was differently than he was thinking. The emption means the buying, bonorum of the goods, genitive, was being laid aperi, open. This is societatem, this alliance was being vexed. We actually saw, what was it, pungo can be used as vexed as well. So, and pessime means in the worst possible way. This alliance was being, he was causing trouble against it. This would be Cicero by speaking. And the gratiam and potentiam eos means him. His influence is basically his gratia, and his potentium is his power, was being neglegi, like disregarded, or Cicero was pushing against his power and gratia. And that Eudices, which we've seen many times, this case here it's not vocative, were attendere, they were attending their ears diligently. Another adverb. And the rem, the matter, seemed indignam. Videre means seemed, and dative to the people. So the whole matter seemed indignant to the people. It seemed like a shocking piece of news, really, if we check out that whole section there. Okay, the download was called other rules Latin. So you say atque in the sense of as and than. We see it here as hord minus act, they do no less than. We see the aliter, which was we saw earlier, and similatque, that was a word earlier in it as well, which meant as soon as. So you can see it doesn't just mean and, it can mean than. Okay. 61. Quae, which things, quae, since, quoniam, eruci, that's the vocative, erucius, you have been deceiving yourself, for felerunt. This is another repetitive perfect. And there's the enclitic, and since you see omnia to be verse, everything is turned around, in the causem, the case for sextius roscius, pro takes the ablative, if not commodi, if not as fittingly or aptly as it should be, but dice is being pled, or Cicero speaking for him, libere, liberally or freely, whom putabas you were thinking would be dead-eye, given over, intellegis, you understand that he is being defended. And those quas who, here's the future, you thought were handing him over, you see vides, so quas speribas, those who you were hoping would handing him open, you see them judicating, which is judging, doing their job. Restitui, so it still stands, nobis to us. Aliquando, something to do with time. Tuam vetram, your old calidatem, so that's cunning and shrewdness, and your prudentium, your wisdom, which is the vetram, lets us know that he's someone who's for a long time been considered wise and prudent. Confidere, we have something here. Confess that this, which venisse, you would come in the hope, spe, the ablative, so you've come huck here with the hope of quod putares, what you were thinking here would be a latrocinum, you're committing banditry or robbery basically, you'd be able to come in here, use the courtroom to steal the money, not indicium futurum, it's just future, but it's going to turn out it's going to be a proper courtroom, a judicium, so it's going to be a true trial going on. The parasito causa dicita, so the cause or the case, dicator, passive, is being pleaded, or what they're speaking about is de parasita, concerning parricide, which can sometimes mean treason, but it just means killing here, especially of the father. And the ratio, this reasoning by the accuser, has redita non est. So he hasn't given a ratio or a reasoning or an account. Quam ob causam, which means for the reason of why, here's that nominative, the filius has occiterated the patrum. Why? He hasn't given a reason why the son had killed the father. 62. Quod, which can be a because or a which, in minimus noxious, so in something that case that has the least amount of noxious harm, and in these, his is a plural demonstrative pronoun, a levoribus peccatus, that in takes all this ablative, in these lighter sins or crimes, you might want to say. So we're dealing with this, something that is, so he's changed from the parricide. He's talking about in something where you have least harm and in lighter sort of crimes, which magus creba, which happen more frequently, and now propi quotidiania sunt, almost daily these things happen. Vel, it might be an adverb or it could be a preposition. If it's an adverb, it means even or for instance. Maxime and primum querit. Okay, so the greatest thing, the maxime and the primum, the first thing which are inquired into, querited, quiz, quae, causa. What is the cause for it of this malefici, of this evil wrongdoing type thing, of this crime? Id, neuter. Back to the guy's name, he's in the nominative. Erucius, in this parricido, in this case of parricide or the killing of father, he non putats, he doesn't think that they're oportere, that there ought to be, putats, the head verb, an action going on your head to put you into this infinitive here. He doesn't think there ought to be an inquiry, a quare, and oportere also takes this infinitive here. In quo scellere, it's ablative. So in this crime, here we have the judges again, the jury, even when etiam cum multae causae, we see they go together in that position. There are many causes, convenisse, they come together, convenisse, in one place, unum in locum. Sometimes the Latin puts this before it, but you can easily, in prose, put it after the in. So all these many reasons come together in one place, and they vidento, they seem inter se amongst themselves to be congruent. Congruere means they fit together, they can seem to fit together. Tamen, nevertheless, creditor non temere, should not be rashly, temere is the adverb, be believed, credited. Nequi, neither levi conjurores pendita, neither should be hanging or decided or judged the res with light conjections or loose conjections. And nequi, neither auditor, should it be heard with uncertain witness or someone who you might not want to believe. And neither, nequi, accusatoris ingenio res iudenca. So it shouldn't be judged, the res should not be judged by the ingenio, this is like the ingenuity or the ability of the accuser. Okay, so we'll scroll a bit. Cum multa, when there's been many things ante before, commissa maleficia, so many bad deeds have been committed, multa and commissa, committed. Cum vita, could be with the ablative, with the life, hominis of a man, perdidissima, this would be superlative, most worthless or destructive life we're talking about. So now Cicero is talking about his client here. He's trying to say that, if this man's committed many crimes, basically he's a destructive man, then singularis audacia ostendendis, then it's necessary, necessity est, a singular audacia, which means it must have a certain type of boldness, and ostendator means it must be shown, and neither audacia solum, neither this boldness or recklessness alone, but summus furor and amentia, he must have a great furor, anger, and some sort of madness, amentia. Remember, he's accused of killing his father, so Cicero is showing that it must not be audacia alone, but he must be a real angry and mad sort of person. Haec, these things, omnia, all, that's the neuter version of, these things all, we have the subjunctive, if when they have been done, if they had been done. Tamen, nevertheless, extant, still means to exist. They're oportet, they ought to exist, extant. Vestiga, which are vestiges or footprints, expressa sceleris. So there should be signs or footprints which have been expressed of this crime. So there ought to be some sort of proof, literally. Ubi where, in this qua ratio, in this reasoning or in this account, per quos, through these, quo tempore, in which in that time this maleficum admissum, this maleficence, this evil was done, or if you want to change the ad to com, like you do in English, which is maleficum was commissum, committed. Quae, which things, nisi, unless, multa and manifesta sunt, unless they are many and manifest, these are crimes, perfecto, assuredly, the res, tam scalesta, amata so scalesta, so criminal, and tam atrox, so atrocious, and tam nefarious, they are not able, credi, to be believed. 63. Magna est enim. For magna est, viz. For great is the force, humanitatis, of humanity. Again, they're accusing a son of killing his father, and he's talking the force of humanity is great. Multem, valet, so very strong. Valet's usually something to do with strength. The communio sanguis, so there's common blood, the communion of blood, is a very strong bond, something like that. Reclamitat istius modo suspicionibus ipsa natura. So nature itself is reclamating or shouting about. Istius modo looks genitive of this type of things in suspicionibus's. To these suspicions or in these suspicions, nature itself is shouting about in this type of way, basically. And we're almost done here. Portentum in monstrum certissimum est. Okay, so it is very certain. It's a superlative. A portent and monstrum. Portents are also monstrous, so it's basically two monstrous sort of words are put together. So you might want to say it's an evil omen, and monstrous is someone, aliquem, someone. Humanus speci, looks like who is human in appearance. This looks like a fifth declension in figura, so it's a human appearance and figure who would prevail over or something, thinking such immanente bestias. So monstrous of beasts, so he's sort of outdone even the monstrous beasts, so much as in proptoquos, on account of those who had a spexrated, hence a pronoun, the most sweetest light. I think we had that superlative suissimum this month as well as the Daily Dictionary word. So the most sweetest light that he would privaret him of light. Luce is the light. Most indignissime. This most indignant way, when even Cormetium, the feras, the wild beasts, intercesse amongst themselves, who are partas born and educatio, this means reared up, we get our education with, and nature itself, reconcile them together or concile them together. So the wild beasts have some sort of respect amongst themselves. So if we take it back to here, this most certainly is portent and monstrous sort of sight for someone who was of a human appearance and figure, who would outdo such tandem means such of these monstrous beasts, in that on account of Hank, the person who would lets him see the most sweetest lights, most sweetest light, singular, he would deprive him of this light, Luce, most indignantly, when even the feral beasts, who are born and reared together, behave better, I suppose, is what he's trying to say. And that's it for the day.